Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now let's talk about Nigeria's new weapon against insurgents and bandits. It's the Super Tucano fighter aircraft that military strategists say will help build the Nigerian military's air superiority. Well, they also caution that even this superiority may not necessarily pay off, and that's because the insurgents and bandits appear to have understood and adapted to the pattern of military airstrikes and are taking advantage of the difficult terrain in Nigeria's northern region to evade attacks. There's also concern over the spate of military plane crashes in Nigeria, the most recent just over this weekend, when an Air Force Alpha jet crashed after coming under intense ground fire from people described as bandits by the information unit of the Nigerian Air Force. Others have crashed due to poor weather conditions, which is why there's much anticipation and hope over the expected arrival of the Super Tucanos. They have long range, can operate day and night in any meteorological condition, and are able to land on short airfields lacking infrastructure. Let's take a brief look at the Super Tucano in action.
It's not supersonic.
Awesome. Sweet. That's good job. That's a kill shot.
Well, I wouldn't want to be a terrorist or a bandit. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, who is a former fighter jet pilot in the Nigerian Air Force. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Bye.
Tell us more about these Super Tucano jet fighters and how well adapted they are to counter-insurgency operations.
Oh yes, thank you very much. The Super Tucano, I think the idea first came up about 2013 when our frontline aircraft for this kind of war, because it's not every aircraft, every jet that can be adapted to every situation. But for this kind of counter-insurgency war, we were using the Alpha jet. Yes, we had other bigger aircraft, but those ones are too sophisticated to be employed within.
They're too cumbersome, basically.
Yes, yeah. Within the theater operations. So you need a slower aircraft like the Alpha jet, like the Tucano, to operate in the theater of battle, especially when working with the surface forces. So the Tucano, as we saw then, reliable aircraft, easily maneuverable, as you can see in that video. It has lower speed and it's prop engine, so it is easily maneuverable. It can do tight turns. And now, yes, the Alpha jets had performed wonders for us in the past, but then they are now aging.
They're dated.
Yes.
I mean, they're from 1980.
80s, so
which is pretty old,
and
let's face it.
Now the Tucano is more modern. It carries precision-guided weapons. In the days of the Alpha jet, we must see, we must manually calculate for the impact point. But the Tucano can do all that. There are computers on board that will calculate everything for you. So where you send it to, it's where it goes. The Alpha jet, on the other hand, is manual. Right. So the people.
So basically, this is a digital aircraft,
it is a
and the Alpha is an analog.
Yes.
Right, and this delivery of the Super Tucanos has come about because President Trump lifted a U.S. arms embargo on Nigeria over human rights abuses, which had pretty much hampered counterinsurgency efforts.
That's true. Yes, like I said, the negotiation for the Super Tucano started way back 2013.
But it was suspended
Yes.
by the Obama administration.
Yes, because according to them, because of human rights abuses. But then the last administration saw the need to go in partnership with Nigeria, and here we have the Super Tucano, which are likely, or which will definitely help the war against insurgency.
Right, but I read somewhere that that the Super Tucano was designed to be a low-cost system operated in low-threat environments. Is the northeast and the northwest regions with, you know, an insurgency and banditry, some of them with pretty sophisticated weapons, considered to be low-threat environments?
Yes, based on what we've seen fighting insurgency in Nigeria, there are different assumptions that, like I had the earlier guest was talking about, publications in newspaper, news media. There are a lot of falsehoods that come into play. But basically, I will tell you, it's still a low threat environment because we study them. We know what they have and what they don't have. And we're prepared to counter what they have. We know the capabilities of what they have, and we are doing that. But then, the Super Tucano cannot be 100% safe or protected from any hostile activity. But then, in this environment, I think we have the techniques and tactics.
Right, because it's also it's got an armor shield.
Yes.
So in some ways, it can, if you hit it, it may not penetrate.
In
And
some parts of the body, yes,
right.
That's true.
But I mean, I'm trying to understand how this is going to make a difference in the war against insurgency and bandits, because Beacon Consulting, which is the security firm run by Dr. Kabiru Adamu, did some research which showed that there is a major problem of weaponry in the military. The firm found that there were about 6.5 million small arms and light weapons in circulation in Nigeria. 6.5 million. But just 586,000 of these are in the hands of security forces. So what this highlights is that there is a huge amount of weapons available that are not in the military's control. And in addition, research also shows that these armed groups tend to have a higher caliber of weapons, oftentimes, than the military. And in such circumstances, what difference can the Super Tucanos make?
Yes, this Super Tucano will definitely make a difference. However, we want to caution that we should not see the Super Tucano as the silver bullets to insurgency and banditry and kidnappings all over Nigeria. Super Tucano is just a component of what is required to provide solutions to the challenges we have at hand. So they must still be complemented with other efforts. They've used them in other countries, and most times they are complemented with other resources that will make sure their performance is successful. Because if you use it for ground attack, you use it for early warning, there should be other components that should come in. The ground troops, everybody must weave their efforts around the aircraft so that we can be successful in all we do. There are weapons all over the place, but such weapons that we know are not too much of a threat to a Super Tucano when in operation.
But there is also the issue of plane crashes, isn't there? I mean, Nigerians are very worried about the crashes. There was just one this last weekend, and you know, fortunately, that the pilot was able to eject and was able to escape. The Nigerian army said that they helped him escape. But why are there so many crashes? I mean, a lot of it has to do with worryingly human error.
Really, I wouldn't say so, because
well, that's what the spokesman of the army said, of the Air Force.
That's what he said.
He said that you know, once you're actively flying, there is the tendency to have mishaps caused by human error and by weather.
Yeah, definitely. Air accidents are caused by various factors. It could be human error, weather or act of God. It can come in any way. But then, it's true that whenever you fly actively or too often, there are bound to be air crashes. In fact, from records, the air crashes we've experienced so far are so marginal compared to countries that flies more than what we do. Now, if you look at Nigeria, for example, how many hours were we flying about 5 years ago? And how many hours do we fly today? How many aircraft are in our inventory then? And how many aircraft are in our inventory today? Look at where we have to cover. The Air Force is all over Nigeria. Now, the plane that crashed yesterday, they are both based in Yola. They had to leave Yola to go to Zamfara and do the banditry operations. So many things can go wrong along that road. But they got there because it's an exercise that's been going on for like 6 days. That Sunday, yesterday, was supposed to be the last day for an operation against banditry. But it has been coming successfully until the last day, and this incident happened.
Yeah, but when you say the last day, I mean, you're saying it's been successful.
For the past 6 days, this particular
Yeah, but
exercise.
how successful? Because the point is that the reason the plane crashed was because it was shot down by the bandits that you went to attack. So it couldn't have been that successful if they were still able to muster the kind of equipment and the kind of presence of mind to attack your aircraft.
For me, that decision to confirm or to accept that the aircraft was shot, I won't want to stand by it right now because you must...
Well, I'm simply quoting the statement from the Nigerian Air Force.
I'm outside the Air Force right now. I used to be there.
Yeah, but they did say that you would speak on their behalf.
I'm
that's
not
you're
speaking
here.
on their behalf. I'm speaking as a past fighter pilot who knows what it takes.
The terrain.
Yes, we have sustained bullet attacks in the past in Liberia and Sierra Leone. And the aircraft, sometimes, in fact, we didn't lose anyone. But some will come by with bullet holes.
Okay, well, let me then ask you,
Yes.
because based on your experience, you understand these things.
Yes.
What would that pilot have gone through yesterday? He was shot at, he managed to eject. Take us through his experience, what he might have experienced. Obviously, you weren't there, but
Yes, he was in the heat of the battle. The Boko Haram or whoever he was fighting should have been defending themselves and firing. I've been fired at in the past, and then you just zero your mind and say, okay, I must go for it. So he must have done that. Then he got fired or whatever, and he lost control of the aircraft. Once a pilot sees that he's no longer in control of the aircraft, that's why the jets are equipped with ejection seat for you to escape. If everything was normal, he wouldn't escape. So he pulled the ejection seat. He knew we have been prepared for it, that at the last minute you must leave the aircraft when you see that it's no longer safe. So he escaped into not knowing what will happen next. But then from what I gathered, he landed in a territory that was unknown to him, an unfriendly territory, and he had to go undercover because it was a dangerous territory. And he survived and stayed out of cover overnight until this morning. Yes, he was able to trace his way to an army unit where he was finally rescued. But throughout yesterday, immediately that thing happened, the Air Force mobilized all their resources to track him, to locate him within. But then he, being scared of being caught by bandits, what I heard was that he took cover somewhere and used the dark to hide himself very well until this morning when he finally...
Well, that's a fascinating story. And I think both the Nigerian Air Force and the pilot himself need to be commended. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about the imminent arrival in Nigeria of the Super Tucano fighter aircraft with which the Air Force hopes to give insurgents and bandits a run for their money. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now let's return to the Super Tucano fighter planes which are arriving in Nigeria this month. The Trump administration sold the military planes to Nigeria despite concerns over rights abuses. Up to a dozen A-29 Super Tucano aircraft were sold to Nigeria in 2018 to help fight insurgents and bandits in the north of the country. The deal had to be approved by Congress and was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It was originally agreed by the Obama administration, but was reportedly halted on the day it was due to be sent to Congress after a catastrophic incident involving the Nigerian military. About 90 people, mainly women and children, were killed in January of that year when the Nigerian Air Force mistakenly bombed a camp in the northeast, which was hosting thousands of those who had fled Boko Haram. And there was another mishap this weekend when a Nigerian military pilot was shot down by bandits during an operation in the northwest.
To a quick end.
This is the most diverse.
Yesterday we had an operational engagement to which one of our aircraft was downed. And since yesterday we've been looking for the pilot. Thankfully, this morning we have had him rescued, and of course he is right here in Kaduna and on his way, of course, about now for further medical checkup. And but thankfully, as a trained pilot, fighter pilot, he was able to leave off the land, and of course, the other measures that were put in place enabled him to be rescued. I thought I'd also use the opportunity to indicate that the very essence of this gathering, which is of course to engage with you and by extension the larger society, is partly what was responsible for the safe return of our cherished pilot. So we thank God and we believe that going forward.
That's the Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff there. And with me in the studio, Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, a former fighter jet pilot in the Nigerian Air Force. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. And of course, that pilot, very lucky, he managed to eject safely and was found and rescued. What about the Alpha jet pilots that are still missing? What update can you give us on that? Because their aircraft went off the radar at the end of March, as you know.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because it happens in aviation, especially military aviation. Within within Makurdi in 1990, October to be precise, I ejected close to the base. And the Air Force Authority did not see me until about 6 hours.
Why did you eject?
It was an accident. It was bird strike. Those are things we call act of God. When you fly and the unexpected happened, there were birds that just came, injected into the engines, and broke the windshield of the aircraft, and then everything entered my eyes. There was blood and everything.
Wow.
I was losing consciousness, and the next thing is to escape, so I ejected. And the Air Force did not see me until about 6 hours later. It was not too far from the base, but when you eject, the wind blows your parachute, especially when you are unconscious. It can take you anywhere. So the guys that we have not seen so far, we really cannot tell what happened to them. While we were fighting in Sierra Leone, there was an aircraft with 2 occupants that had malfunctioned aircraft, and then they ejected, and we didn't see them for almost 48 hours. But they came back. Both of them are alive today. They came back almost 48 hours after. When they came back, we asked them, what happened and how did you get out of it? And they told us it was the aircraft that malfunctioned, and they ejected.
But isn't there? I'm curious. Isn't there some sort of navigational equipment? I mean, you'd see that with U.S. soldiers and many soldiers from a lot of other countries. I mean, don't they have some form of navigational equipment or some kind of communications equipment?
They do.
That they can use to get in touch, and that would make it easier to locate them.
Yes.
Because I mean, you sound like you're leaving it as an act of God. Well, they fell somewhere. We haven't got a clue where they fell.
Like what happened yesterday, between yesterday and today, I saw the reports. They said that the guy used his cell phone after ejecting and was able to manage whatever he did, and then found an army unit, went there this morning, and he was eventually brought back. There are communication equipments on the aircraft, but once you leave the aircraft,
no, I mean on your person.
On your person,
right?
Yes, there is supposed to be a locator,
right,
on the survivor jacket. But after ejecting,
it could be damaged.
You can't tell what is remaining of the survivor pack.
Right. So now that we're talking about it, what is the capacity of the Air Force right now, without you giving away trade secrets? Because I mean, you depended, the Air Force has depended on the Alpha jets, and they came into force, as you pointed out, in 1980, and they lack a lot of modern equipment. I mean, they're analog planes, basically.
That's true. Yeah, with the Tucano, I will still say it again, that
yeah, but is the Tucano the be-all and end-all of Nigeria's Air Force capacity now?
That is what Nigerians want it to be. But we need to go beyond that. We need to still realize that the Tucano alone, without the other components, might not be able to do the job 100%. It might be able to do it. It might take a longer time. But for us to get the job done quick, we must sit down. What are the components that is required to complement the efforts of the Tucano? You need early warning systems up there that will guide the Tucanos to their targets. You need composite units that will move in when the Tucano attacks, because when you attack and nobody to take over where you have attacked, those same people will come back and occupy the space.
Yes, that's a very good point, because my next point was going to be to ask you, why is it that you have huge convoys of insurgents or bandits traveling through different towns? I mean, you know, hundreds of them. You see them, literally hundreds, with motorcycles and vehicles and so on, and they go through many towns before they get to their target. Why isn't the Air Force mobilizing to hit them before they get to their destination? Because surely that's a job for the Air Force.
Very good. Have we provided enough for the Air Force?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Yes, to be able to do that, you need something we call persistent eye in the sky that will make you see at all times, even when you are sleeping. It's recording something.
You mean like drones and things that are flying around? Like
drones, like some kind of balloons that are in existence now, that will see your place wherever it is deployed for like 30 days at a stretch. So anytime you wake up, you can play back and say, these guys were here yesterday. Where are they now? You can see and prepare from home and go there. In the days of ECOMOG, we were using our naked eyes to search for them and attack them when we can. But today, especially counter-insurgency war, they are not static. They are always mobile.
Right.
It is when you have a persistent eye in the sky that keeps monitoring them and provides you early warning, then you can pick them up. But I think we've not gotten there yet, and I think we are shying away from engaging the real technology that is out there, that is making it easier for the other nations to achieve.
Right. Well, that's another question altogether. So we've got about 30 seconds before we have to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
In your professional assessment, the Super Tucano is not the silver bullet that will end the war on insurgency.
It is not. It might not be, but then it will definitely add more value to what the Air Force is currently doing.
Right.
Because of its capabilities. And when you look back at the history of the aircraft, it has been engaged mostly in counterinsurgency wars all over the world.
So you are optimistic and you're excited about their arrival.
I am. But then I would still say the aircraft needs to be complemented with other assets.
Okay, I want to thank you very much indeed. It's been fascinating talking with you. Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, a former fighter jet pilot in the Nigerian Air Force. That's it for this edition of The Arise interview. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos, bye-bye, and thank you for watching us.